Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint Germain family. Yesterday, I was asked who has been the worst PSG manager, and that got me thinking. Let's do a complete tier list grading all Paris Saint Germain managers in the QSI era that I've witnessed. So we start off from Carlo Ancelotti. I did not witness Comboire at Paris Saint Germain. Ancelotti, one season only, I witnessed him at Paris Saint Germain. Where do we put Ancelotti? Ancelotti, we won the league. We potentially lost both Coupe de France and Coupe de la Ligue that year. I remember we lost to Evian. I wasn't able to watch that game because it was a cup game. It was very difficult to find. I believe we won the Trophée du Champion. We basically won the Trophée du Champion in every single year apart from Pochettino. That's the only time we've lost the Trophée du Champion in QSI history, I think. At Paris Saint Germain. Ancelotti, it was a very stable period. He could control the big players that had just arrived, like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Thiago Silva. We also had Pastore there before, Maxwell. A lot of big name players, and he was there from the start. So I like Carlo. Like Carlo's time at PSG was good. I'll probably give it an A. We'll see where we put the other managers, and maybe we'll switch his position. Next up is Laurent Blanc. Laurent Blanc obviously was here 3 years. 13, 14, 15, and 15, 16. 15, 16, that was one of my favorite PSGs ever. My favorite Paris Saint Germain game was under Laurent Blanc in the 14-15 season. The battle at the bridge. And under him, we won our first domestic quadruple, Coupe de la Ligue, Coupe de France, Trophée du Champion, and the Ligue 1 title. We also our record for most wins in a season, record for most points in a season, most goals scored in a season. Angel Di Maria broke the all-time Ligue 1 assist record. Zlatan Ibrahimovic broke some Ligue 1 top scorer in the past 40 years. That was a very legendary season for Paris Saint Germain under Laurent Blanc. Yeah, just a lot of stability. We obviously couldn't reach, enormous heights under him, but, the process was still at an early stage at PSG at that point. It was different expectations. We hadn't splashed the money off Neymar and Mbappe and so on. Blanc, I'll put him over Carlo. Was here for longer, more impactful. Yeah. Next up is Unai Emery. Unai Emery is a bit of a difficult one because we probably played the most beautiful football under Unai Emery. A bit with Galtier's first 6 months at the club. Because I remember Unai Emery in that second season when we obviously bought Neymar and Mbappe. We had Cavani, Di Maria in the attack as well. Lucas Moura, Julian Draxler, Lo Celso. It was a dirty team. Pablo Sarabia. It was a dirty team under Unai Emery. But Unai Emery, we cannot forget his first season. We lost Ligue 1 to Monaco. Monaco were great that year. They broke a lot of records. They reached the Champions League semi-final further than us. It was still a bit embarrassing, losing the league. That's also when Remontada happened. And then in the UCL the year after, knocked out versus Madrid. So, not doing the best in the league. We also lost the Coupe de la Ligue, I think, against Stade Rennes in the final when Xavi Simons missed a pen. That was also under Unai Emery. It was like we played good football. Stability wasn't there. There wasn't that much power. Unai Emery, that's where the Neymar, Dani Alves, Cavani incidents happen and everything. We played great football. But when you look at Carlo Ancelotti and Blanc, I don't think Unai Emery came in, did anything special. And he was backed. We bought him Krychowiak. He wanted Krychowiak. He wanted Jesse Rodriguez. He wanted so many bumps in that first transfer window. And then the second one, Nasser was like, nah, give me the keys. Let me get you Neymar and Mbappe. We'll see how that goes. But Unai Emery, have to put him at B. Next up is Thomas Tuchel. Wonderful manager. Was here for 2.5 years. Obviously, the only manager here, alongside Galtier and Poch, that was sacked by Tuchel, only PSG manager in the QSI era that was sacked mid-season. And that was after reaching Paris Saint Germain to his first ever UEFA Champions League final. So Thomas Tuchel can feel a bit of a victim in that situation. I think both him and Leonardo made mistakes, but we lost Thiago Silva. It was so much. But Thomas Tuchel, he's basically Luis Enrique 0.5. He was the Lucho before the Lucho. He was the manager PSG tried to give more power and build a project around. Young project as well, Thomas Tuchel. But the thing is, we had Neymar and Mbappe. So he's like, focusing on Tuchel or we're focusing on Mbappe. Whilst under Luis Enrique, it's been clear he has been the main focus. But yeah, Thomas Tuchel, can only see positive words about him. Whenever he talks about PSG, it's always good stuff. Obviously, he still has beef with, he still has beef, but he had beef with the management at that time. But Thomas Tuchel, good period at the club for sure. And you know what I will do? I will move Unai Emery down here, Blanc and Ancelotti to B, and I'll move Thomas Tuchel up to A. Because I don't think he should share the same place as someone, but we'll see. And now we come to a little bit of a dirty situation. Mauricio Pochettino. As I said, the only time we've lost the Trophée de Champion under Mauricio Pochettino against Lille. He also lost the league title to Lille in an embarrassing fashion. At least Unai Emery, you know, he had just lost Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and Zlatan wasn't replaced, and no big attacker was signed to replace Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And that Monaco team, as I said, was a great team. That Lille team should never have won the league and title against us. Then comes the second season, and one thing I can always give Poch is, in the league, it was terrible. In the domestic cups, it was terrible. We lost in the Coupe de France, we lost in the cups. It was embarrassing. But in the Champions League, we're actually good. The first one, two double knockout stages. Versus Barca, we beat them. We beat Bayern, the reigning champions at that time, and you know, a bit unfortunately lost out to City in the semi. Then the year after, performed really great versus Madrid. Obviously, maybe you can blame the substitution of Paredes to Idrissa Gueye on Pochettino, but apart from that, it was the team that crumbled. The individual mistakes from Donnarumma and Marquinhos, and the penalty miss from Messi and so on. So I don't know, Poch is such a weird manager to... And he was also dealt with, you know, the M&M and so many egos, so many big players and so on. I want to put him on the same level as Unai, but I'll put him below. You know, Pochettino gave us the UCL performances. He knew how to win big games in the UCL, whilst Unai Emery just couldn't. Unai Emery was more like performances in the UCL group stage and in the league, whilst Poch was more knockout stages. I'll put it like this. Now we have Galtier. First 6 months, I mean, he was basically S. We were unbeaten going into the World Cup. We had a 30-game unbeaten streak with Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe as the three best players in the world at that moment. You know, we thought we would win everything. Then we watched the World Cup. Mbappe and Messi reached the World Cup final, being probably the two best players of the World Cup that year. And Neymar, despite injuries in Brazil not being the best, you know, he still showed great moments, including probably his biggest moment ever for Brazil with that goal versus Croatia. Then we come back from the World Cup and the season just gets tanked. You know, we went from being unbeaten to losing like 11 games out of 30. It was definitely the most disgusting period supporting PSG. A bit alongside maybe you see a group stage in the beginning of this season. By Galtier, we played so great football, man. The freedom he gave to Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. Obviously, Mbappe became a bitch at that time as well. But I got to put Galtier D. The best description is the UEFA Champions League. Mbappe was like 50% fit, so he was going to come off the bench and not start the game. Galtier opted to play a 4-4-2 with Neymar and Messi as the outlets up top. Defensively at the Parc des Princes versus a mid-Bayern München. Then Mbappe came on and then the game changed. But yeah, Galtier, I'll always remember him as someone that in the good times, it looked great. But in the bad times, it was extremely disgusting. From Christophe Galtier. Obviously, some of the stuff as well was not his fault. You know, it was external stuff. It was problems at the club that he had to deal with. You know, he did not join PSG at a stable time. Let's say, for example, Luis Enrique gets sacked and Galtier comes in. I think Galtier will perform better because the club is stable and everything and all of that. But you can't forget, Galtier also races both him and his dad, both about ethnicity and other religions. And lastly but not least, Luis Enrique, Lucho. You know, only after last season, I started discussing, is Luis Enrique potentially the best manager? Because it was only one season, but he did so well. Yes, one excuse you gotta give Thomas Tuchel compared to Luis Enrique is Luis Enrique got backed way more than Thomas Tuchel. Like, Lucho actually has been backed extremely by the Paris Saint Germain management. But Luis Enrique has to be first. Won us our first Champions League, 2 domestic quadruples, Trophée de Champion, two domestic trebles. They've obviously removed the Coupe de la Ligue, Champions League semi-final the year after. And there's a clear way at PSG. We know exactly the football that PSG wants to play. And this is a dynasty. Like, what will happen now is Luis Enrique, how do I do this? Below. What will happen is Luis Enrique will just make this gap bigger than it is. That's what will happen. Obviously, a lot of stuff, went good for him because the management finally said, let's put away the egos, let's focus on a manager and back him, which they didn't do with any of the managers. The closest they came to was Thomas Tuchel. But Luis Enrique still deserves enormous praise, especially because of the 2 hardship periods we went through. But he still kept everything stable. Everyone believed in him. And look at us now. Champions League winners, going into the next season as favorites once again. Great economically. Like, everything is just perfect at the moment. And that ends the video of grading all Paris Saint Germain managers. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed this video. It was very interesting to record. Let me know in the comments down below what other PSG football or anything else tier list you'd want me to do. That's been it from boy PSG, and as usual, allez Paris.